Today we're going to talk about an awesome Japanese fantasy sci-fi film by the name of Inuyashiki, which released back in 2018. The movie begins by showing us a family settling down into their new house. They consist of our hero, Ichiro Inuyashiki, his wife, his son, Takeshi, and his daughter, Mari. The family isn't too happy with their new place, but it's not like the spoiled brats have a lot of options. Ichiro faces difficulties at work primarily because he's aging and is unable to keep up with his colleagues. However, he needs the job because he's got to pay off the mortgage on the new house. His family doesn't really care about him much, and he is hated by Mari in particular. Yeah, she's a bit too savage with him. Luckily though, Ichiro comes across a very good girl by the name of Hanako, and she's a cute little Shiba Inu. He wants to keep his new buddy, but his wife doesn't want him to enjoy his life, so she tells him to get rid of her. Don't worry, he still keeps Hanako with him. However, he needs to go for a medical checkup, and then he learns he has stage 4 cancer. Okay, that's not exactly good news. To make matters worse, he sneaks into the room to get his phone and overhears the doctor telling the nurse he only has 3 months left to live. Wow, this guy really can't catch a break. He tries to speak up about his health condition to his family, but they're just a huge pain in his butt and really suck at mature conversations. So our hero doesn't even bother with it. That annoying wife of his orders him to abandon Hanako, and this time, he has to listen to her. He drops her off and tries to run away, but she's a smart girl, so she picks up a shortcut and finds him at a park. Ichiro gets totally emotional and hugs her after feeling guilty about what he's done. He also finds another person sitting on the park bench, Hiro Shishigami. They're the only ones there at this time of night. All of a sudden, a massive alien spaceship crash lands near them, and it looks like the impact of their landing kills both Ichiro and Hiro. But then, after a rapid montage, he wakes up and can clearly see without even his glasses. He heads back home for breakfast, but can't even taste his soup properly. He does feel thirsty though, so he drinks a lot of water. He goes to his room and wonders if he's gonna die soon, but then he notices steam coming out of his hands and freaks out. It turns out that he's got a weapon arm, and it shoots out the soup he just ate. Maybe that's not the right kind of diet to follow. But then his whole body transforms into a freaking half-human, half-robot hybrid. Wow, that looks insane. So I guess those aliens felt bad about their accident and patched him up perfectly. If they did this to Ichiro, then they must have done the same to Hiro as well. We get confirmation of that later when Hiro meets his friend Ando, now Yuki, whom he fondly refers to as Choco. He shows off his powers to him by killing a pigeon after simply pointing his finger at it and saying bang. Well, that's pretty convenient for him, but he's also a pro at it. He can control cars with his computer-like brain, and we can see that this dude didn't waste any time in learning his new skills. Hiro shows his true robot form to Ando, and it totally freaks him out, but he agrees to keep it a secret between them. Later, Ichiro gets fired from his job, and his begging doesn't work on his boss. This is literally the worst thing that could have happened to him after buying a new house. Anyway, he finds the pigeon that was shot down by Hiro and manages to heal it. He's obviously pumped to see what he can do, but then he hears the distant cry of a mother whose son is in a critical condition. He sneaks into the hospital room and tries the same healing technique on the kid. Yep, he succeeds and miraculously heals his condition, even despite the doctors having given up all hope on the patient. These new abilities give him great confidence and distract him from the fact he's unemployed. Now we see Hiro and Ando in school. Mari is also a part of that class. Ando gets bullied by a bunch of jerks, but then Hiro comes to his rescue and orders them to apologize to his buddy. But he takes it a little too far and almost kills one of them. Luckily, Ando stops him before he can go any further. This might be disturbing behavior for others, but it makes him attractive to a girl named Shion Watanabe. She flirts with him for a bit, and the feeling seems to be mutual. Hiro calls up his mother using his new tech powers, and she tells him to visit his dad even though they're divorced. Hiro clearly doesn't like the guy because he's already started a new family, but his mom worries about his ex's health and convinces him to pay a visit. At first, Hiro has a good time at his dad's place, where we can see another woman and some kids. However, he points his fingers at him and almost kills his own father, but doesn't do it. Okay, so maybe he isn't a murderous psychopath after all. Well, I spoke too soon, because he goes to an innocent family's house soon after and murders all of them for no apparent reason. Meanwhile, Ichiro makes good use of his powers and saves more people at the hospital. But then he hears cries of the victims in distress. He rushes to the scene and finds the dead bodies but can't bring them back to life, as his abilities can only heal living people. He finds Hiro staring at the bodies like a total freak and gets shot by his evil counterpart, but survives the attack. Hiro manipulates his bank account and gives Ando some pocket money, but he refuses and asks him to stop his killing spree because, well, murder is bad. Hiro doesn't care about the law because he doesn't consider himself to be a human anymore and even calls himself a god. Ando can't deal with this freak and ends their relationship before leaving. Later, Hiro's mom asks him to shift into his dad's house because she has pancreatic cancer that spread to her lungs and she has no chance of living. This devastates him and he hugs her so that he can cure his disease without her knowing. On the other hand, Ichiro is welcomed at home with a lot of family drama, and it's a bit too much for him to handle, especially when Maddie says a lot of ungrateful stuff to him. The robot man cries alone in his room, realizing that only Hanako is on his side. But soon after, he hears Ando's prayers asking God to stop Hiro. Now he realizes his purpose and takes off with Hanako. He finds Ando and they catch up on whatever's happened so far. Ando is shocked to learn about Ichiro's healing powers, and Ichiro is shocked to learn all about Hiro's powers. But since both of them had the same body, Ando helps him to train his powers so that he can stop Hiro. They try to figure out any weaknesses, but there's nothing that comes to mind at first. Ichiro's training doesn't go down too well either. Now, Hiro and his mom learn at the hospital that her cancer has miraculously disappeared. Overjoyed by this discovery, they try to plan their future ahead, but the cops stop them so they can investigate Hiro for his recent murders. The teenage villain manages to escape after killing some of them, but this news spreads fast, and he's a wanted criminal. He's got nowhere to go, but Shion believes that he's innocent and gives him shelter at her place with her grandmother. Meanwhile, Ichiro becomes a little better with his powers, but gets tired and needs to re-energize himself with water. He consumes a sports drink but spits it out the same way he'd earlier ejected the soup. This revelation leads Ando to declare that his weakness is salt, and they can use this to fight Hiro. Meanwhile, Mari sees them together and suspects something might be fishy. She confronts Ando, but he leaves abruptly. Later, Hiro sees in the news that his mother was harassed by the press and she committed suicide because of the guilt. He is emotionally shattered to hear this and blames himself for her death. But then he sees in an online chat forum that the members are making fun of this situation, and one of them had actually leaked their address to the press so that they could harass his mom. Hiro loses his mind and immediately kills the person who leaked the address. He's able to do this by shooting him from the freaking screen. Well, that's not a good sign. He ends up killing all the forum members in the same way. After this, he reveals the truth to Shion and takes her on a little flight. She still seems to like him even despite his murderous spree. So now, Hiro has found another person to care for. Ichiro tries to figure out a way to locate Hiro with Ando, but Mari confronts him about his suspicious new friendship. Before things get weird, he leaves. Later, the cops infiltrate Shion's house and attack her and Hiro. However, nothing happens to him, and he kills off all of them. Unfortunately, Shion has also been killed in the middle of all the gunfire. Oh man, this dude cannot catch a break. Yeah, he's definitely pissed off now and takes off by using his inbuilt jet thrusters. Hiro becomes a nationwide issue, with the whole of Japan seeing him as a threat to their safety. He comes up with a plan to tackle the situation. He takes over everyone's screens and starts killing them off one by one. Now that's a terrifying way to go. Ichiro hears their cries and helps Ando spread the very obvious message to shut off all phones and screens. But then Hiro launches missiles all over the city and wreaks havoc. Ichiro finally meets Hiro and tries to reason with him by saying that they should use their powers for good. But Hiro was never going to listen to that. So they get into an awesome fight scene mixed with some great flying sequences. Meanwhile, Mira is trapped under some rubble on top of a building and cries for help. Ichiro tries to help her, but Hiro gets in her way. They get into another debate, and Ichiro uses this as an opportunity to trick Hiro into drinking his sports drink that's been labeled as water. Hiro thinks that he's re-energized now and gains the advantage over Ichiro temporarily. But the salt water kicks in, and this allows him to blow up. The oldie quickly rushes to save his daughter, and she wakes up after a brief scare, thus allowing him to heal her. They bond for a bit, but unfortunately, Hiro drops by for a surprise punch. He kills off the other survivors in the building, and then aims for Mari, but misses after Ichiro battles him. The old man is no match for his nemesis, as he doesn't have enough experience with his powers. Hiro pulls off some finishing moves, but isn't able to kill him. Then, he tries to go the emotional route and throws Mari off the building. That triggers Ichiro's system, and he goes full turbocharge mode. Using his new powers, he breaks through Hiro and saves Mari. The danger is finally over. A week later, Hiro is declared dead by the news. But that's just a fake report to keep the public calm. Ichiro chills with his family as they watch this news, and we can see that Mari definitely has a lot more respect for her father now. The movie seemingly ends, but there's a mid-credits scene showing us that Hiro has survived, but he's still heavily injured. He visits Ando's house, and his friends take pity on him, so he offers to play a game with him. Seeing his kindness, Hiro takes off from there, and now the movie really has ended. There you go, guys, that was Inuyashiki. Let me know if you have any ideas for other recaps, and I'll check them out. Like, share, and subscribe if you're new around here and want to stay up to date on the future recaps we've got coming up. Alright, I'll see you in the next one.